What if I told you the man who gave voice to a generation didn't kill himself, but was silenced because he witnessed something so evil, so unspeakable, that just knowing about it signed his death warrant? Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is buried so deep in darkness that people have died just for getting close to the truth. The recently released Epstein files didn't just expose a sex trafficking ring. They ripped open a door to hell itself. And standing in that doorway, covered in shadows and secrets, is Courtney Love. What if the person you loved didn't just break your heart, but literally ate it? There is a darkness rotting underneath the Hollywood sign, a stench of sulfur and expensive perfume. Bombshell documents buried in the DOJ's Epstein files have just blown the Kurt Cobain case wide open. This isn't just a conspiracy anymore. It's a horror story, directly implicating Courtney Love in a ritualistic murder. These files prove an entire generation was lied to on a cosmic, terrifying scale. Newly released Epstein documents dropped a bombshell. Kurt Cobain wasn't just another tragic member of the 27 Club. His wife, Courtney Love, was starving for Hollywood fame, and she found a jagged shortcut to the top. We are talking about the darkest deal in human history, paid for in the industry's preferred currency, the blood of trafficked children. This hunger led Courtney directly into the twisted orbit of Jeffrey Epstein and Marina Abramovich. The moment Kurt threatened to blow the whistle on the true, demonic nature of these power brokers, his days were numbered. We have the damning documents. They are desperate to conceal the forensic evidence and whistleblower accounts that don't just tie Courtney to the darkest trade on earth. They suggest she developed a literal taste for human flesh. Kurt Cobain didn't stay silent about elite pedophilia. He screamed it from the rooftops of the Seattle underground long before he became a global icon. Once fame dragged him into the belly of the beast, he realized the rot wasn't just local, it was structural. Cobain wasn't hearing rumors. He was seeing the monsters up close. Jeffrey Epstein gained access to Kurt's inner circle, even attending the iconic MTV Unplugged event. Epstein became so close with Courtney that her name appeared in his little black book, circled as a key contact. When Cobain began warning the world about sex traffickers and their private islands, he knew exactly who he was talking about. That is why the predators controlling the industry began sharpening their knives. Then there's this shadow conspiracy involving a prominent judge in Seattle and a cabal of Hollywood elites. They didn't just want Kurt gone, they wanted to erase anyone who knew the truth. They set up a woman, ruined her life with staged scandals, and threw her into a mental institution for a forced lobotomy. She spent years in a broken-down infirmary, abused every night by a line of staff and friends. Now, a bombshell forensic investigation has revealed that Cobain did not commit suicide. He was murdered. After a fresh review of the autopsy, the lead specialist declared the scene was staged. The report lists multiple red flags: signs of overdose before the shot, oxygen deprivation, the weird position of his hands, and a total lack of blood. It was a perfect crime. We talked to an FBI expert who said, "If you want to get away with murder, you kill a junkie. It's easy to make a hit look like an overdose." But the Epstein files have finally surfaced. Decades of letters they thought were burned are now public. If Courtney thought the forensics were bad, this is worse. She features heavily in the logs. Kurt and Courtney were divorcing. This is confirmed. He was leaving her. If that divorce had finished, she would have received nothing due to a prenuptial agreement. When he died, she suddenly inherited an estate worth over $1 billion. But this is 2026. The world is waking up. Courtney has been linked to the most horrific revelations: the consumption of baby flesh during occult ceremonies. The files are full of code words. Jerky means child meat. Cream cheese means even younger victims. One Epstein document shows a baby in a sink, labeled shrimp. The email says, "Some are like shrimp. You throw away the head and keep the body." They even offered jerky classes on the island. These people are beyond evil. The skeletons in Courtney's closet are rattling. A paralegal says her crimes don't stop at trafficking. We have the details after this vital word from our sponsor. The air in the industry's secret salons doesn't smell like success. It smells like copper and old bone. According to hidden diaries recovered from the Epstein estate, the rituals weren't just for show. They were a hunger. Imagine walking into a room where the A-list stars you worship are huddled around a mahogany table, their faces smeared with a dark, glistening residue. One whistleblower, a former server at these private galas, describes a heavy, iron-rich steam rising from silver platters. This wasn't food. It was a sacrament of the damned. They believe that by consuming the most innocent among us, they can steal their untapped years, literally eating time to stay young. Kurt Cobain saw this with his own eyes during a drug-fueled haze he wasn't supposed to wake up from. He wandered into a basement kitchen in a Hollywood Hills mansion and saw something that shattered his mind. A small, pale limb being prepared with the same nonchalance a chef uses for a rack of lamb. He didn't see people. He saw predators in human skin. When he tried to scream, the industry's doctors were already there with a needle, ready to tell the world he was just another crazy addict. But the terror wasn't in his head, it was on the plate. The psychological warfare used against Kurt was masterful. Courtney reportedly used dark empathy to gaslight him into believing his own memories were hallucinations. She would whisper the truth into his ear while he was nodding off, only to mock him the next morning for hearing voices. This is the classic Abramovich method, breaking a subject's grip on reality until they welcome death as a relief. They didn't just want Kurt dead, they wanted his soul broken so he wouldn't haunt the machine. Look at the pattern of the suicided. These weren't just depressed men, they were messengers. When Chris Cornell began investigating the Blacklight Foundations and the flow of children through war zones, he was found in a hotel room in a way that defied physics. The same for Chester Bennington. The elite operate on a frequency of fear. They use these high-profile deaths as a signal to the rest of the herd. See what happens to the Golden Boy. Imagine what we can do to you. They aren't just killing people. They are performing public executions disguised as tragedies. The final terror lies in the realization that these networks are ancient. The Epstein files hint at the Great Library, a collection of blackmail and gore that stretches back decades, weaving through every major political office and film studio. Courtney Love wasn't just a wife. She was a gatekeeper for a cult that predates Hollywood. They use cannibal Sacrament to bind their members together in a pact of silence, because once you've tasted the forbidden, you can never go back to the world of men. Deep within the redacted sections of the latest document leak, there is mention of a harvesting schedule. It suggests that the fame we consume on our screens is merely the bait for a much larger trap. These icons aren't chosen for their talent, but for their ability to gather the masses into a shared emotional state, a state that the elite then harvest through ritualistic trauma. When a legend like Kurt is sacrificed, the collective grief of millions serves as a massive energy surge for those who pull the strings. It is a cosmic parasitism, a way for the shadow dwellers to feast not just on flesh, but on the very hope of humanity. As we peel back the layers of the 2026 Epstein disclosures, the truth becomes harder to stomach than the lies. We are looking at a global network of predators who have weaponized our own desires against us. They own the music, they own the movies, and they own the digital footprints you leave behind while trying to find the truth. The walls are closing in on the cabal, but a wounded animal is the most dangerous. They are preparing their next distraction, a new tragedy, to keep the world looking away from the silver platters and the small, pale limbs. The question is, will you be watching the screen, or will you be watching the shadows behind it? Do you believe Kurt was the first sacrifice, or just the most famous one? The truth is out there, buried in the blood and the ink. If this story chilled your bones, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's the only way to stay ahead of the narrative they are trying to force feed you. Comment below with the truth. If you want us to dive even deeper into the secret journals of the elite, your engagement is the only weapon we have against the machine. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and never stop looking into the dark.